Rhyme. Welcome to my episode. My name is Valerie Hale, and many of us think of wealth as what is in our bank account, what are our existing assets, and that is so far from what true wealth is. I study with three mentors, Mary Morrissey, Bob Proctor, and Peggy McCall, and they all teach very similar beliefs, and they teach us how to take action steps to actually attain true wealth. One of the things that Mary teaches is that we need to bring our future to us, meaning don't live in today's chaotic world. Yes, it's going around us. Yes, you acknowledge it, but do not let the world create your existence. It's important for us to see the life that we really want. And in regards to the chaos, we all have situations, especially now with the pandemic, especially with the outfall in the United States with the election, economic crisis. Mary has been through hell and back. Just one example of what she has been through and why she is such a good mentor. When she was very young, late teenage, she was in the hospital with a fatal kidney disease, and they had given her months to live, and this healer came to her bedside and taught her how to live and see her future. And she did, with the help of doctors, recover. Now she's in her 70s and she is teaching worldwide. But you can see from Mary's teaching and the way she lives and the way she teaches us to live, she will teach us how to get past this chaos. She has 3 quotes that I find so compelling and life-changing that I'll share them with you. Mary says, there isn't one thing that you can think up that there isn't an answer. There isn't one problem that you have that there isn't a solution. There isn't one difficulty that you are facing for which there isn't the power within you to overcome. We all have difficulties in our life, and many of them are challenges that we can turn into opportunities. I have 40 acres and 3 houses that I have put on the market in New York. And my big dream is to sell this beast. And it's taking longer than I want. And Governor Cuomo, during the pandemic, said to tenants and homeowners, landlords like me, that your tenants don't have to pay rent starting in March until January. That's great for the tenants, but what about homeowners, landlords like me, who have mortgages to pay, who have to do maintenance on the property? He provided no safety net for us, and there was a time where I was so stressed. I've gotten over that because, quite honestly, I practice what Mary and Bob and Peggy tell me to do as my mentors. And that's what's so imperative about learning with people who are the masters. We have a tendency to get mired in today's chaotic universe. And Mary teaches us how to bring your future to you. My future is not only selling the beast, the 40 acres and 3 houses, one of which was a former bed and breakfast, by the way. That was a long time dream of mine. The other part of my dream, besides selling everything, is to live in a beach community. Well, I figured out 2 years ago, I can do that with the snap of my fingers, and that's what I did. I made the decision in August, and I moved down to Florida, and we're actually going through a tropical storm now, but we're fine. And that's another important thing of learning how to find answers for what seems like insurmountable situations. I knew that I had to get away from my property. And I did take a quantum leap And I did take a big risk in moving down here. I was basically underfunded, but after a year or so, I figured it out. How to make enough money and be happy and love Florida. And yeah, I'm so happy I'm not in New York. But that's the point with Mary. She teaches us how to take these big, important steps. I usually talk about Kundalini Yoga because that's wealth yoga wine. Kundalini Yoga is the oldest yoga in the world. It's over 5,000 years old. When you go to my website, shayvalerie.us, and for those of you who don't speak French, it's CHEZVALERIE, shayvalerie.us. You will click on yoga, and you will see my absolute favorite yoga teacher in the world, Power Prakash. It takes you right to her website. She teaches virtually. But what I wanted to return to about Mary very quickly is a podcast about Mary today. She teaches a meditation. It's a meditative breath that will calm you instantly and give you a clear mind. And a clear mind, folks, is what leads us to better decision making. It leads us to a clear brain. It leads us to, oh, you can breathe again type of mentality. And you really do open yourself up to being able to find those answers and the power within you to overcome our challenges. And it's a very simple breath. You're going to breathe in deep through your nose to the count of 8. You're going to hold it for 4 counts. You're going to exhale for 8 counts. So it's like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do that as often as you can. Mary wants you to do it for 5 minutes. I think it's a little tricky when you're first beginning deep breathing. So just start with 1 minute breathing. When you go to my website and you click on the yoga, there is information about an anti-cancer breath. It's actually a breath to prevent viruses. There's just so much science and technology in Kundalini Yoga that will change your world. That's what my podcast is about. I want to change your world for the better. I want to change everybody's world for the better. But don't rely on me. You have to study with the masters, Mary and Bob and Peggy. Another way to change your world for the better is to have you drink and enjoy good wine. The last episode I talked about Bourgogne Rouge. I have sold French wine for 24 years. That's why I'm going to always talk about French wine and food pairing. Bourgogne Blanc, obviously, is French. We talked about Bourgogne Rouge last time, how it's always Pinot Noir. Bourgogne Blanc is always Chardonnay. And just to mix you up a little bit, you might run across Bourgogne Aligoté, but that's so rare. That's just kind of showing off that I know something. Bourgogne Blanc is just an AOC. It's a coiffer. It's an everyday wine. You'd have it by the glass. You could have it with really simple salad and bread and cheese. Just a snack kind of wine. Hot dogs, hamburgers. I'm only kidding. Because you really don't want to have a Bourgogne Blanc with red meats. It's just too light of a wine. But very easy to drink. And usually, in today's market, around $15. You can find a Bourgogne Blanc for about $12, maybe $9.99, but be careful of those $9.99 wines. I do step my toe into that market sometimes because I make vinaigrettes, but you really want a wine that you can drink and cook with. So a Bourgogne Blanc, besides Bourgogne Blanc, you can step it up a little bit to Canvelage. Also can be a little watery, boring. What I suggest, if you really want to know more about French wines, certainly go to my website and send me an email. because one way that you can just about guarantee that you're going to get a good bottle of wine is you turn the bottle around on the back and it will tell who the importer is. That's really important. Super important importers are people like Kermit Lynch, the Edward Wines based in New York City. So you get the drift. There's some information there that can really help you quickly find a good bottle of wine when you start to know who the importer is. The Macon Village, again, it's an appellation, it's Chardonnay. A little more complicated than a Bourgogne Blanc, but nothing really to write home about. Although I have, Bourgogne Blanc, when I was in the industry, I had a biodynamic Bourgogne Blanc that was stunning. It was $21, which is unheard of, but it was produced biodynamically, so that's expensive. Really one of the most delicious wines I've ever had. I have sold a good Macon Village in the past also. Again, you need to know who the producer is or who the importer is. Macon Village, you can start having some soups and maybe a niçoise salad. You could have, with Macon Village, you could have a nice chicken dish. You could probably have something with a little light cream to it, but not too much. Again, Macon Village, it's a step up from Bourgogne Blanc, but it's still, an easy Chardonnay to drink. Now, Chablis. Chablis, unfortunately, has a really bad connotation to it because these crazy Americans from California bastardized the name Burgundy and Chablis because they put wine into jugs and it was absolute disgusting stuff that would probably kill you at the end of the day. Probably did kill a lot of people. Chablis is the most northern part of Burgundy. It is northeast of Paris. And again, it's Chardonnay. Generally, it's very rare to just have a generic Chablis that is oaked, so it is bone dry. And when you go to the area of Chablis, when you go to the vineyard, you will see that there's lots of little pebbles and stones. And this is what makes the Chablis taste minerally and makes it bone dry. And it could sometimes have the flavor of stoned fruits. You're not going to get a fruity wine, though. It's really bone dry. And that's why the quintessential pairing with Chablis is oysters. Quite honestly, any raw shellfish. But if you don't want to go the route of raw, for some reason, then you can certainly have oyster Rockefeller. You could have something cooked, of course, but seafood and Chablis, absolutely perfect pairing. Now, because the flavors are more complex, you could certainly have pasta primavera. You can have an Alfredo sauce. You could have your lighter meats, such as a pork chop. Now, I am a vegetarian, but I remember a gazillion years ago what meat does taste like. But for me, being a vegetarian, I would certainly go more for portobello mushrooms with a beautiful sauce. I love quinoa. Risotto would be really, really nice with just a simple Chablis. You can get into very pricey Chablis. There's Premier Cru and there's Grand Cru, but this is an everyday conversation about food and wine pairing from France. So if you really want more information, we can go down that road, but go to my website for that road. So in conclusion, you've got Mary Morrissey teaching us amazing, amazing thoughts. And that is, there isn't one thing that you can think up that there isn't an answer. There isn't one problem that you have that there isn't a solution. There isn't one difficulty that you are facing for which there isn't the power within you to overcome. And I want us all to remember this in these chaotic times. We are in charge of our world. The world is not happening to us. And do her deep breathing. It's so good. Count of 8, hold it to 4, and then exhale, count of 8. And go to my website and get some more information about Kundalini Yoga. And lastly, I want you to drink good wine. Their Bourgogne Blanc is a good investment. Au revoir.